Okay, so I first started watching reality TV show when Temptation Island came out. And when I saw the commercials, I was devastated, I was horrified, but I was also sickeningly drawn to it. And we started having some friends over, and we would watch it with our friends, and it became addicting.
Um, I think it's probably just that time and that generation. People just interested in what other people are doing and maybe not necessarily satisfied with their lives. A lot of people are working probably more and want to see what other people are doing, kind of almost voyeuristic. Just watching other people's life, living vicariously through others.
When Real World first came on, I just actually moved out with some buddies into a house and remember watching it and just thinking about, just the correlation between actually being out on my own for the first time and this show being on and about being in the real world and just dealing with other people on a daily basis.
Sort of like an interactive thing, we'd scream out, "Oh, I hate her," and "He's so cute," and all this crazy stuff, and it just became really fun. But it was also just, it left a dirty taste in your mouth because it was just so bad. So then after that, we just kind of became addicted, and now we wait for the next one to start up again, and we count the days until it does, and we love it. It's really fun. But I think it's pure entertainment, but it's also trash at the same time.
The Bachelor, I don't get it. The Bachelor to me, especially for women, if I was watching that show and I was a woman, to me it would be the most degrading thing that I ever saw. That you're going to actually get 20 women that are basically going to live in this house, which basically could almost be like a brothel house, and for one guy. And that they're going to be fighting over this guy and falling in love with him, within, 2 weeks. Because people have seen it on the show. To me, it's extraordinarily stupid.
These individuals are usually around their mid-20s. They've never had money, or maybe some have, but most of them haven't. They don't have the money yet, and they don't know what they're going to get. They're going to pretty much act the way they've acted their whole life, minus the fact that there's a TV on them and anyone feels somewhat uncomfortable with with a camera on them. But as far as the money, I don't think that's really a factor. It's only, after the fact issue or thing they deal with. But for the most part, I think they just come as they are.
Temptation Island is another great show, and I think it's a great way for people to go on and see if their relationships are really working out and if they are with the right person. Or maybe the right person is right there that they didn't even know existed.
The Bachelorette. Let's be honest, the men that are watching this, that go on this show, you don't see them crying when she decides that he's not the one. It's basically just a macho fest of, who's gonna get that girl in the end. You may have 2 or 3 of those guys that are the real sensitive guy and that are really interested, but the other 17, they're out. They're looking for something else.
I've actually been watching them for a much longer time. I started watching The Real World, which is on MTV. It's been 10 seasons now, so I've been watching it for a long time, and I've been religious about it. And only lately has it become a little bit more mainstream. But it's gotten a little trashier, like Alicia said, but it's still enjoyable. It's not my life, it's theirs, and I get to watch it through the TV screen, so that's why I enjoy it.
Because it's interesting and there's a lot of sex. And
Why do you like sex?
it's fun to watch. And I don't know, they spice
that I'm
it up.
complaining.
It's a great show. It's been on forever. And it was the first one that started. And then Survivor went after it. But The Real World on MTV has been on for like 20 years.
No, it's not reality. I think that basically any of these shows that are trying to push reality to a certain point, to a degree, I think if you look at shows like The Real World and Road Rules, which started, probably 8 years prior to this huge push of reality television, at least in those shows, even though they did hype it, tried to put alcohol into the mix and tried to put some controversy into it, it was more of a situation of people were dealing with each other just for the experience. It wasn't them dealing with each other and the last person left in the real world house got $1 million. It was just them getting to live in a special town, Chicago, New York, and live there for a while, experience other people. And that was interesting. That was really seeing how people mix together without these extras involved. So of course, when you have something like, Survivor, everybody's going for $1 million. Why not just have a Survivor show and just see how people dealt with each other? That would be fascinating, but people aren't necessarily going to watch.
I first started watching reality shows when one of my friends, a neighbor of mine, called me over during a snow day, and all we did all day long, and it probably drove her fiance crazy, was we watched the Learning Channel. Well, it's TLC now, but back then it was the Learning Channel. We watched a dating story and a wedding story, and after that I was hooked, and I just had to watch every show that was on TV.
Younger years are always better.
Why?
Because I think that you're allowed to be a little more dramatic and exciting and innovative when you're younger. When you get older, you get put in this little mold. You're supposed to be more professional, and you don't get to have as much fun.
I was following The Bachelor with one of my friend's mothers, and she's the one that's gossiping about the show more than any of my friends.
Fear factor, don't understand it, don't know where the fear is. I mean, you have fears that, are natural, fear of heights, fear of dying in a fiery burning car or something like that. But then the fear of eating some weird worm, I don't think that's really a normal fear, because the chance of it actually happen isn't there. If they were calling it gross factor, then, that may be appropriate. But fear factor, no. Stupidity factor is a better name for it.
The Osbournes is another, but that's funny.
The Osbournes
is funny. Why is that funny? Just because Ozzy's funny.
You just see the way people live, and it's supposed to be funny. Like, they're just living their lives there. It's normal.
Like, it's ridiculous to say, and it's ridiculous to watch probably, but I think it's pretty funny.
But every family's like that. If you filmed any family, it'd be funny. You can make anything funny. Married by America is just the most ridiculous one of all of them, where America chooses who should marry the guy, and there's like three girl finalists. They ask her questions and stuff, and they go into her background, like, have you ever cheated on a guy? And if she has, she's out. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, Joe Millionaire was cool.
Why?
Oh, shock value.
Shock value?
Yeah, I mean, just to see her face when he says, I'm a forklift operator.
Joe Millionaire. Actually kind of got into it a little bit. It was a little bit interesting, just on the side of if you're just watching something incredibly stupid but you can't turn away because you're like, okay, what's the next stupid thing that's going to happen?
A lot of my girlfriends and I disagree with Joe Millionaire. Some of them thought he was like the Neanderthal man, and other girls thought he was super hot, and I think I was somewhere in between.
The two that he ended up with were bad choices to begin with. So, I mean...
Oh, strong words. Just because they aren't you, Jess, doesn't mean they're bad choices.
He would say things like, they'd be in Paris or I don't know what, and he's supposed to be this rich guy that's really educated and that's traveled so much, but yet he didn't know anything about the country, and the girls would ask him things and he would make up things and they were so clearly wrong. The whole audience would be like, oh my god, how are these girls so dumb,